Radiating from the heart of America and stretching from coast to coast and border to border, welcome to On Radio, the wireless industry's weekly download coming straight from the builders and newsmakers of everything wireless. Your host is Jim Tracy, and this is On Radio.
Wireless world, welcome again to On Radio. We're back this week again with Ryan Tracy, one of the people who grew up wireless and legends of wireless. Welcome back, man. Good to see you.
Thanks. It's great to be back.
You know, I just learned something from, it's actually from a doctor we're going to have on a podcast. And he said, in medicine, the way that we used to teach, it was like, watch one, do one, and then teach one, and then you'll know one. And that application really has a lot of wisdom in it. And it's not just for medicine, it's for towers. And speaking of that, you've seen technology change. So we're going to roll over from growing up wireless to transition from growing up wireless to the legends of wireless, because you've watched as the technology has changed over the years. What are some of the things that just like jump out to you that are significant about that?
I remember one thing when people always talk about technology changes that I remember is when, it had to be in the late 90s, they started trying to put GPSs in phones for the 911 service. And there was a lull in the build out, and we got a contract to go put in these units for a carrier within the BTSs that was supposed to help with their GPS coordination and their
enhanced 911.
And I remember putting in like 200 sites worth, and then I remember getting the call that that they weren't operational and they didn't work. And I remember being paid, time to go do that over again. And so, I mean, there's those are some of the things, you're on the forefront of learning something when the test study is the install and how it works in real life. And I think that's something as executives we need to remember too, is that sometimes our ideas are awesome on paper, and sometimes they're awesome. They're awesome on my idea is great when I'm sitting in a boardroom. Hey man, this can never fail. And then you put it into practice, and there is a small aspect, and there was only a very small aspect of that GPS system that didn't really work. I mean, in theory, it should have worked great. And I think in a lot of ways, we need to remember that the true trial is through putting it in the real world and in a use practice.
Yeah.
And
stuff's got to work.
Yeah, it has to work. I mean,
I remember
it's one of the things we always taught our guys. Hey, number one, when we're done, this has to work better than any other site. Number two, it's got to look great. And number three, we got to do it quickly or we're not going to make any money.
And then clean up when we leave.
Yeah, exactly. If you break it all down, all tower companies and guys, we all do the same thing. And the difference between the guys who do well at it, the difference between the guys who make a profit at it, and the difference between the guys who don't, it's just the little things, because we all stack iron, we all hang antennas, we all pull hybrids, we all hang radios, we all do the same thing in a large sense, but the little things is what changes what the end result is.
Yeah. One of the things I remember, goes to technology and kind of the whole legend thing. We had a call, and it was from a wireline carrier, and their microwave service to a little town was degraded and out. And it was snowing, but it wasn't snowing by the inch. It was kind of snowing by the foot. Yeah. And we got a chance to fix that. And we didn't have anybody else, so you took it over, right?
Yeah. I've kind of learned through life that people are just looking for solutions.
Yeah.
And they're generally looking for the easiest solution. It's like building a set of IKEA furniture. You get it halfway put together because you won't look at the instructions, and then you're finally looking for the solution on why this thing's all wobbly, and you just want to turn to the right page and just figure it out. And you don't want to go through the hassle of unbuilding it and rebuilding it according to the instructions and making sure that you do it right. You just want the answer.
Yeah.
And a lot of our customers can be the same way. RF is a difficult thing to teach because it's not visible. You can't hear it, you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. I mean, to a certain degree, it's just there. And so to teach that is really a lot of theory. And sometimes when our customers call us, it's amazing that they are generally very educated, knowledgeable people. But every once in a while, you'll run into some guy. They have new people that work for them as well. And, I showed up at that site and the guy was like, I don't know what's wrong. I just know it doesn't work. And I just went and got the book and I said, why don't we read the book? Let's start with the IKEA manual and try and figure
Yeah.
out what's wrong with this. And it took an hour or two of reading the book and understanding what alarms we had and what was going on. Now, thank the Lord, I had the theory down, so I
Mhm.
understood the process of how a microwave radio operates. So that basis of knowledge was really helpful in figuring out what page in that manual to go to find out our problem. But I mean, essentially, the problem was the microwave had no maintenance in almost 30 years. So
Yeah.
uh,
Then there's that.
now it was just what parts are good and what parts are bad, and can we make one radio out of two?
Yeah.
And luckily, we got her up and going at least for a week while they got some other parts repaired. But that's just a solution. Be willing to do the hard things. I mean, sometimes the hardest thing is to let go of your pride and say, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I got to read the book.
I remember another
Sometimes
time that it happened where the radio came in and it was like a FedEx urgent blue label delivery or red label delivery overnight. Got to get it fast, got to get it up and running. And then you're like opening it up and they never used it in the US before and it wasn't in English.
oh yeah, it worked great from the boardroom, right? It's just their boardroom was in Korea, and
Yeah.
they said this was going to work awesome, and they just forgot that they needed to share all that information that they couldn't read Korean.
Yeah, there's not very many bilingual Koreans in the US on the
uh,
tower.
not on the tower there. It can be hard to come up with that. Yeah.
So as you look back over 25 plus years in the wireless industry, and you see the technological changes, what is the biggest swing that has changed what we do out in the field?
The biggest swing that changes what we do in the field, I would say it's twofold. Um, Number one, it is the unsatious desire for data
Mm.
by the public. Um, you, we are providing something that they can't get enough of. It's almost like a
Yeah,
drug.
yeah,
Um, and so that ends up developing a lot of pressure. Sometimes uh, very evident, sometimes really subtle, but there's pressure for us to provide something that the consumer feels they need immediately.
yeah.
And then I think the other thing that's changed most of what we do now is that we are looking at an industry that really is quite young, and was
Hmm.
really young when we started this.
Yeah,
But I mean, compared to the auto industry, we're babies.
yeah,
Compared to the home building industry, we're looking at but that desire to innovate sometimes is skewed because they want to grow up and be like another industry. And I think it's really important that we recognize the differences in our industry and that innovation comes through testing and trials. And they did not build 5G on the first go round.
Yeah.
You know, we started out with analog, and hey, you know what? We can talk. I mean, that's the start, right? We have success. We were building the Model T of wireless. Okay, they aren't going to build a Lamborghini on time one,
Yeah.
and the
And have it work
ability.
anyway.
Correct. You know, I mean, everybody wants a 24 valve, screaming
1,000
machine.
horsepower.
Oh, lots of horsepower, many gears, and 185 miles an hour down the track. You know, that's what we want. But in order to develop that, we have the need in the market, the need and the desire for it in the marketplace is there, but we have to allow those innovative people to not be boxed in by another industry's rules or regulations. And we need to realize that we are our own industry, and we need to do it safely. 100%. Like I said, go home is the first part of go home better.
Yeah.
But after go home, we need to do it better, and that we need to allow for the innovation to continue to happen, not only in the back offices of R&D within the radio manufacturers and
Hmm.
antenna manufacturers, but within the companies. Just because they build it doesn't just because they build the parts doesn't mean they're easy to put together.
Yeah.
We still need to innovate in how we construct these sites for the betterment and longevity of the networks.
And
So
our folks, too, have to do it while they're climbing over rules and regulations that are always well intentioned, but sometimes are not as awesome as maybe the folks in DC might think. Isn't that accurate?
yeah, I am a true believer in natural consequences to a certain degree. I mean, what is it? John Wayne said, "You can't fix stupid." But not that I think there's a difference between naivety or ignorance and stupidity. Stupidity is knowing the right thing and doing the wrong thing anyways.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and we can teach the right thing, but there has to be an allowance for those people to make those right decisions and recognize the consequences of not. And that is something, if we're not teaching, training, and then holding accountable to what we know is right from guys who've been there and done that's really important. But the accountability part is we need to allow them the opportunity to fail, because they aren't going to build a Lamborghini their first site. They need someone on site saying, "Hey, I understand you're a Model T level, and
Yeah.
that's great, but we're gonna help you and teach you what a Lamborghini looks like."
Speaking of that, if I look back over my shoulder again, I see, and this is maybe '04, and you came in one day and you were like, you know what? Somebody's going to have to fix all this stuff that we're putting in. And this is the time this is before Tiger Team. This was before site optimization. It was called AOP, Area Outside Plant Engineering. And they were the folks who didn't climb, who didn't know what to do, who had to fix stuff. And you were like, hey, we can fix it. If we can build this stuff, we can fix it. Tell me what led to that moment. What was that flashbulb moment where you were, hey, we need to keep working?
Well, I guess I liken it to when we first started building sites. There wasn't sites. I mean,
Yeah,
not very many of them.
yeah,
I went to the party. They had what they called a handover party, for a carrier,
yeah.
And it was the first two towers that handed a phone call from one tower to the other.
Yeah.
Like, wow, this is awesome. It actually works in a real world scenario. I mean, now in your drive to work on your commute, it probably happens 30 times and nobody thinks anything one of it. But there was, 150 people there celebrating that this tower handed the phone call off. It was amazing.
Yeah. Without dropping it. The important thing is that as we close out this program today, we're going to bring Ryan back next week, and we just wanted to say, let's make sure and choose safety today. This is Jim, and I'm out.
Thanks for tuning in today, and join us every week. Tell your people to listen in and subscribe to On Radio, the voice of everything wireless.